In a quiet village nestled between two mountains, lived a boy named Aarav who was fascinated by butterflies. Not just their colors, but their journey, how something so ordinary could become extraordinary. Aarav's dream was to become a wildlife filmmaker, capturing rare transformations in nature. But his village had no cameras, no internet, and no mentors. His family, humble farmers, urged him to focus on practical work. "Dreams don't feed you," his father said. "Fields do." But Aarav didn't let go. He borrowed books from a traveling librarian, sketched storyboards in the dirt, and studied the flight patterns of butterflies for hours. One day, he found a caterpillar struggling to climb a leaf. It fell again and again, but kept trying. Aarav filmed it with a borrowed phone, narrating its journey like a documentary. The video was grainy, but his voice was clear. "This caterpillar doesn't know it will fly. It only knows it must climb." He uploaded it at a roadside cafe with Wi-Fi. Days passed, then weeks. One morning, he woke to find his video had gone viral. A famous nature channel had shared it, calling it the most honest piece of storytelling we've seen in years. Offers came. Aarav got a scholarship to study wildlife filmmaking. Years later, he returned to his village, not with fame, but with purpose. He built a small nature studio, teaching kids to film, narrate, and believe. And on the wall of that studio, framed in wood, was the caterpillar's photo. Below it, a quote: "Perseverance isn't knowing you'll fly. It's climbing anyways." Years passed. Aarav's studio became a sanctuary, not just for nature lovers, but for dreamers. Children who once chased butterflies now chase stories. They filmed ants building bridges, birds teaching their young to fly, and even the silent bloom of desert flowers after rain. But one monsoon, disaster struck. A landslide destroyed half the studio. Cameras were lost. Footage vanished. Aarav stood in the rubble, heartbroken. "Maybe this was all temporary," he whispered. That night he walked to the same leaf where he'd once filmed the caterpillar. It was bare. No insects, no color, just silence. Until he saw it, a single butterfly, wings torn, struggling to fly. It flapped, faltered, and finally soared into the mist. Aarav smiled. He picked up a broken lens from the mud and turned to the children gathered behind him. "We rebuild, not because we're certain, but because we believe." They rebuilt the studio with bamboo and recycled glass. They used phones, mirrors, and sunlight to film. Their stories grew rawer, richer, more human. Aarav's channel became known not for perfection, but for truth. And every video ended with the same line: "Climb, fall, rise, fly." Aarav was no longer just a filmmaker. He was a gardener of stories. His studio, rebuilt from ruin, had become a beacon. Children from distant villages walked miles to learn from him. One of them was Meera, quiet, observant, with a sketchbook full of creatures no one else noticed. She didn't speak much, but her drawings told stories. A beetle that mimicked leaves to survive. A blind owl that hunted by sound. A moth that flew only once before dying. Aarav saw in her the same fire he once carried, not loud, but relentless. One day, Meera showed him a drawing, a butterfly with one wing torn, flying in circles. "It's broken," she said. Aarav smiled. "Or maybe it's learning a new way to fly." He gave her a challenge: film a story without words, just emotion, just truth. Meera spent weeks following a seed, from the moment it fell, to the day it sprouted through cracked earth. Her final shot was the seedling bending towards sunlight, framed against a stormy sky. The video went viral, but more importantly, it made people feel. Aarav watched it with tears in his eyes. "You didn't just film nature," he told her. "You filmed hope." Years later, Aarav stepped back. Meera took over the studio, and on the wall beside the caterpillar's photo, she hung her seedling shot. Beneath it, a new quote: "Even broken wings can reach the sky. Even buried seeds can find the sun." Meera's studio thrived. Children came not just to learn, but to listen, to stories whispered by wind, by wings, by the silence between raindrops. She taught them that every creature carried a secret, and every secret could become a story. But one day, a boy named Kabir arrived. He didn't speak. He didn't draw. He just watched the way shadows moved, the way ants paused before turning, the way birds circled before landing. Meera gave him a camera, film what others miss. Kabir vanished into the forest for 3 days. When he returned, he had footage, not of animals, but of patterns. Leaves curling like question marks, spiderwebs shaped like ancient symbols, butterflies flying in spirals that mirrored tribal carvings. Meera watched, stunned. "These aren't just images," she whispered. "They're messages." Together, they researched. They discovered that the spiral flight of butterflies had been recorded in old village myths, said to be the souls of storytellers returning to pass on forgotten truths. Kabir's footage became a sensation, but more importantly, it sparked a movement. Villagers began sharing their own myths of rivers that remembered, of owls that warned, of seeds that dreamed. Meera renamed the studio, Whispering Wings, its motto. Nature remembers, we listen, we tell. Years after Meera and Kabir transformed Whispering Wings into a sanctuary of mythic storytelling, a strange phenomenon began to unfold. Butterflies started gathering in a grove just beyond the studio, not in pairs but in spirals. Locals called it Echo Grove, a place where stories seemed to return in new forms. Children claimed they heard whispers in the wind, fragments of old tales, voices of ancestors, even lines from forgotten poems. Kabir, now older and quieter, began filming the grove at dawn. What he captured was eerie and beautiful, butterflies tracing symbols in the air, seeds falling in rhythmic patterns, birds mimicking human laughter. Meera watched the footage and felt something stir. "This isn't just nature," she said, "it's memory." They invited elders from nearby villages to share their oldest myths. One spoke of a tree that grew from a storyteller's final breath. Another told of a butterfly that carried a soul across lifetimes. A third whispered of a grove where time folded and stories became seeds. Kabir and Meera realized Echo Grove wasn't just a place. It was a mirror, reflecting every story ever told, every truth ever buried. They built a circular archive in the grove, filled with drawings, recordings, and whispered legends. And at its center, carved into stone, stories don't end, they echo. True transformation begins not with certainty, but with courage. Like the caterpillar that climbs without knowing it will fly, we grow by trusting the process through failure, through silence, through storms. Perseverance is not the absence of doubt, but the decision to keep creating, rebuilding, and believing, even when the wings are torn or the path is unclear. And when we listen to nature, to forgotten stories, to each other, we don't just survive. We become storytellers. We become the myth.